Hello, and welcome back to another chapter of Watch Out for the Lucky. Chapter 2. Grian stared at himself in the tiny bathroom mirror affixed above the sink. His eyes scanned over every inch of himself, but he couldn't find out what was wrong. He just felt it. The eyes that were looking at himself were not seeing something. He stood in his usual vigilante outfit, getting prepared for the audition that was only a few short hours away. All black jumpsuit with the back and shoulders cut out to make it easy to make using his wings easier. Its sleeves were full length, cuffing around his wrists tightly. The whole garment had pink and red trim because that was all that the craft store had on sale when he went to buy some. He had his quiver in place between his wings, the strap resting over his shoulder and across his chest. It made it hard to grab arrows while flying, but he wasn't about to copy that idiot Hawkeye more than he already does. How the guy is able to have his arrow strapped to his thigh and still be in position to grab more in battle was beyond Grian. He had repainted his clawed nails after getting home last night. Matte black with pink and red. He may not have wanted those colors to be his motif, but he'd be nothing if not consistent. He usually opted to not have fingerless gloves, since it was a hindrance, but today he put them on. Typically, he only wore them when it was cold, but he saw them on his counter and put them on without much thought. His pants were tucked into his mid-calf combat boots he had found at a second-hand store for cheap. He had switched out the laces again for pink and red ones. They added about 3 inches of height to Grian, so he often switched out the laces and just wore them as normal shoes. That being said, they were quite worn out. Seeing all of this, Grian still couldn't work out what was wrong. His wings were preened, each feather perfectly in place, his hair in a high, tight bun to keep it out of the way. Slight stubble on his chin he couldn't be bothered to shave away. Nothing was off from what he normally looked like and wore. Whatever, Grian scoffed, turning away from the mirror. It was probably just nerves. He knew what he was getting into, and he was very sure he would get the job. But with nothing left to blame the weird feeling on, he decided he must be a tiny bit nervous. He walked out of his bathroom to the main and only room of his apartment. There was a small love-seat couch in the center, otherwise known as his bed, and 2 small boxes piled against the wall under the one window. He had packed away everything that really mattered for when he could move into the Hero Tower, the place where all the main heroes and their sidekicks must live. He was hoping to be able to move in later tonight. Checking one last time that his quiver was fully stocked full of pink-tipped arrows, he opened up the window, doing his best to try and shimmy out onto the outcropped roof of his downstairs neighbor. Getting his wings through was always the worst. He's a small guy, but not jumping out the window smoothly small. Finally pulling his wings through, luckily only losing a few feathers, exasperated, Grian took a running jump off the roof into the sky. He's glad that he's as light as he is, or else his rude-as-hell neighbor would have definitely complained by now with how often he uses that roof as a landing and take-off point. The flight was short, by high off the ground. While it was true he wasn't the only person with an ability of flight in the city, quite the opposite. Flight was one of the most common powers. He really didn't want to be recognized on his way to the Hero Tower. Even as high up as he was, the Hero Tower was always in his sights, visible from almost any point in Hermitopia Empire, while not even being the tallest. It was bright compared to every other building, as if commanding everyone's eyes to look and stare and watch it. It was multiple levels of purple and white brick, utilizing one-way glass for the windows from bottom to top. The lower levels The lower levels were said to be office space, while the uppermost floors were for the heroes. Something about being able to keep an eye on the city. But Grian thought that was bullshit. More likely, it was that they just wanted to feel even more powerful than they already were. Weaving his way through the alleys between the tallest buildings, Grian started to descend from his flight. He landed a few blocks away from the actual tower, stumbling slightly in the dilapidated alley. The uneven road was dirty with trash and rainwater runoff. Gross. But he started to fix himself up for the flight, smoothing his hair back into a perfect bun and tucking his pants back into his boots. Grian startled badly when he heard a crash from his left. He jumped back, knocking an arrow quicker than a wink, posed in the direction where the sound emanated. Eyes searching for the culprit turned up nothing, other than a pile of trash stacked precariously beside a rusting dumpster. Then, slowly, emerging from the black bags, was a white and gray plump cat with striking green eyes. Grian lowered his bow with a relieved sigh, his eyes still scanning the area still. Finally, seeing that the assumed danger has passed, he got down on his knee while he replaced the arrow and bow back to their holsters. He held out his hand as the cat came up to him, meowing insistently. It was oddly social for a street cat, Grian thinks. Then again, this cat didn't look very dirty, so maybe they just made a break for escape. Well, not his problem. The cat will find its way home. He's a vigilante for people, not for lost cats. With one last scritch to the chin, Grian pulled his hand back and stood up, preparing to leave the alley. He got one step into the process before the cat waltzed in front of his feet, then dropping onto its back, showing their soft white belly and purring loudly. Okay, maybe now it was his problem. That was the cutest thing he had ever seen. He had never had a pet before. Well, any that he could remember, at least. He thinks that his sister Pearl may have had a cat before, as it was her favorite animal. This cat reminded him of her, with their green eyes. He really hopes, wherever Pearl is, she has a cat. They made her really happy. Maybe if he could get out of this alleyway, he would be one step closer to finding her. With newfound determination, he stretches down to give the cat one last pat. He really needed to go, but he wasn't a monster. Before speedily skirting around them, stepping out of the alley, he made a beeline for the Hero Tower. Pushing past mindless commuters, Grian finally was able to stroll around the building to the entrance. The intimidating glass doors were propped open, as they always were. They try to keep up the illusion that anyone can walk around the building and talk to the heroes, yet there were at least 5 security checkpoints, and you needed a badge to get in. So the only place the average citygoer was going to see was the lobby. Grian rolled his eyes at the performative gesture of equality. He saw other vigilantes he'd come to know over the past few months excitedly walk through the front doors. Presumably, they also been invited for audition for Hawkeye's sidekick, or possibly for a different hero. These auditions were not exactly a rare occasion, but typically out of the 100 or so people sent an invite, only 1 or 2 people actually gained the favor of a hero enough to become their sidekick. Historically, that has been the only way to become a full-blown hero with the permit to fight crime, while possibly inflicting major damage in the surrounding area. Being a vigilante has never been the best way to do this either. The Hero Association has apprenticeships and assistant applications open, but those are notorious to take years to get through. To Green, the best way to get his invite accepted was to get noticed. Make moves, get seen, do good in the streets, and hopefully don't get arrested before the association tries to recruit him. Walking to the front arch, he realizes he feels okay. Good, even. He really doesn't want to come off cocky, but he isn't nervous. He's just assured. Everything he's done up to this point was leading to this audition and this moment. He couldn't fail his friends and sister. He will find them. And this is the only way now. This is the only way how. He fought on the streets as a vigilante for exposure and experience. He purposefully kept his identity a secret. He never had a vigilante name or persona. He will not walk out of this building without the job. He will find out where Mumbo, Impulse, and Pearl went, no matter what it takes. With one last breath, Green holds his head up, confidently walking past the grand doors into the Hero Tower lobby. And that is the end of Chapter 2.